Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is the 2024 Kawasaki Z500 SE model. So this is our first look at that new entry-level platform from Kawasaki, and what's interesting is there is a little bit of a difference between the Z500 and the Ninja 500, especially in that SE category. That was more separation now in this Z500 than you would have had in the Z400 and Ninja 400. So what we're going to do in this review is take a really close look at this bike, and we're going to examine what the SE is. We're going to talk about things that the other videos aren't talking about, but this is just our first in a series of videos on this bike, on this platform, on all of this stuff. So what we're going to try to do here is, if you have questions about this bike that you haven't found answers to on the internet or in this video, make sure you subscribe and let me know in the comments below what your questions are, and we'll make sure that we come back to this and answer your questions again and again and again through the questions comment section, but also through future videos. And we can do that because I'm filming here at Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, the #1 volume Kawasaki dealer in the country. And there are bikes as far as I can see. The showroom here is massive. It's like a bike show here all the time. So like I said, this is our first look at the Z500. The Ninja 500 is coming as well soon. We'll have all of that on this channel. We'll have comparisons between the two. We'll do it with things over and over and over again. So again, if you're interested in these bikes, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Let's get going with this review. All right, so let's quickly set the stage for what this bike is and where it sits in the class. The Z400 for years was a very reliable, great entry-level bike that was also a great bike for experienced riders because it had such great capability with a few modifications to make it an amazing track bike that was not expensive. What's interesting about this is it's always dangerous when you make something new when you have such a success. So what Kawasaki did was really keep a lot of things the same, and I think in this case that was a very good thing. But there are some key differences, there are some really key improvements here. So we're going to go through those bit by bit, and we're going to start down here at the front wheel, work our way back through the specs, work our way over to the dash. We're going to talk about some of the differences between this SE model and the regular Z model, which we'll have on a future video as well, and some of the differences between the Z model here and the Ninja model, which again, a lot of people don't pick up on. There are some differences in there. So let's start at the front wheel. Let's work our way through. So if you've seen my videos before, you know that I always start at the front wheel because the front wheel talks about the manufacturer's intent. If you look at a front wheel of any motorcycle, you can see what they were going for with any motorcycle. So what you have here is, again, some entry-level components. There's not an upside-down fork like you would see on the super high-end sport bikes, but again, for who's buying this bike and for the price you're paying, that's not a big issue. Couple differences between this and the previous model is you now have a 310 millimeter, so that's the same size disc, but it's not the pedal style disc that used to sort of kind of come in and out here as a pedal style disc. That was a styling venture. You could argue that it was a cooling measure, but even on their super sport bikes, they have a round disc, not a pedal style disc. So they've been moving away from those pedal style discs, and this one matches that modern look. Now what's cool is this only has a disc on this side. It's not a dual disc like you would see on the 650s and above. But again, for the weight of this bike, for the speed of this bike, or the speed potential of this bike, a single disc is just fine. But what's cool, being a 310 millimeter disc, this is a large diameter disc, so you get that full sport bike feel. It's very difficult to tell that this isn't a larger sport bike just from looking at the front brake disc here. So again, different brake disc, basically same size front wheel. So it's a 110 millimeter wheel, which is about a centimeter narrower than on a larger sport bike like a super sport bike. What that does is really contribute to the amazing handling of this bike. It's very flickable left and right, and that's one of the key pieces of this bike. It's why experienced riders like it, is it's such a flickable bike, such an easy to control back and forth bike, and makes it very, very sporty. You can't replicate the flickability of this bike in a larger, heavier bike, and you still keep all of that. You can see the ABS sticker here. We have ABS ring right there, ABS front and rear, of course. That's standard on the previous model as well. The SE model adds this radiator guard. It adds some other body pieces there, some extra body pieces down there. We're going to take a look at some of those now as we talk about the engine as well. All right, so first of all, let's just talk bodywork before we go into the engine. This is the SE model, and you have some extra bodywork pieces here. We're gonna show you some different views along the rest of this video, so you'll see extra pieces, but a little bit of a radiator decorative piece down here, a lower guard piece or lower aerodynamic piece down there. That's all part of the SE model here in Canada. And then you have these frame sliders. Normally those are Kawasaki accessories. You can add them to anything, but it's standard on the SE. So if you didn't want the SE with this or the frame guard and that kind of thing, but you did want the frame sliders, sliders, that's a Kawasaki accessory. You can throw that on the regular Z500 as well. You can throw them on the Ninja 500. So all of this is standard, and there's no options on this bike. This is the SE model. So let's talk about the engine now. One of the issues with the engine is it was so reliable before. So if they talk about making this bike better, giving it a little bit extra performance, you don't want to change too much, and they didn't. What they did is basically the cylinders in this engine travel an extra 6.8 millimeters up and down. So the stroke is a little bit longer. So what that means is most of the components are actually the same, which means you're not messing around with your reliability, but you're getting an extra 51 cc's of engine space. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's an entire Vespa scooter engine thrown into this by just lengthening that 6.8 millimeter stroke, the distance the cylinders travel. So what you do is you have all of the reliable pieces. The cylinders, the two cylinders in this engine travel a tiny bit farther, and that's worth noting. This is a two-cylinder engine. Some competitors are a single-cylinder engine. That's going to give you some high rev capabilities. But what that does is basically gives you more power everywhere. Kawasaki on the website shows a power graph that doesn't actually have numbers attached to it, but it does show more power everywhere, and especially a little bit extra power in the mid-range, a little bit different torque curve. So what you get is something that is more punchy everywhere, more top-end speed, more low-end speed, more mid-range speed, which is where you're sitting there on the rev range, driving through the streets, and you have something that's just more fun to drive with more power, all without adding any weight, or really any weight. There is a couple extra pounds with some of these accessories on here compared to the previous year model, but the same basic weighty components haven't changed, which means more power, no difference in weight, really good piece here. Now, they'll talk a lot about the engine being a frame or piece of the stressed member of the frame system. What that does is just sort of keep everything light, keep everything solid and strong, and that's, again, the same situation here. Now let's show you what it looks like with me sitting on the bike, and then we'll keep moving our way through. So one of the great things about the Z400 is that it was fairly compact, and that kind of made it sporty, but it also easily fit a full-size person. So I'm about 6 feet tall. Inseam, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm a proportional 6-footer. And you can see sitting across here, I'm very comfortable, very easily able to flat foot. If you're a shorter rider, you're going to be comfortable here. Now, there are some changes here overall for comfort. First of all, let's just throw my feet on the pegs there. You can see that I've got, very comfortable area here. One thing I wish they had changed is I have size 11 feet, and if I put my feet too far back, I'm actually resting it on this guard over top of the muffler. It's one thing that in a showroom situation, I've sometimes sat there and go, oh, what is that behind my foot? And it kind of bothers me. But in a riding situation where I'm going to put my feet where I put them and put it on the brake, you're just not going to have an issue, even with the big feet like mine, size 11 feet. So I guess if you had size 13, 14, 15 feet, yeah, maybe this isn't the right bike for you. But if you had that big feet, you're probably too big for this bike anyways. But at 6 feet here, 6'2", 6'1", whatever, you're going to be fine. And, it is that compact area there. So, couple things you have on the SE. First of all, let's just talk about the new seat. There is a new seat. It is very, very mildly re-angled. Again, they have pictures on the Kawasaki website to sort of show you the area, but some people found that the Z500 seat, the Ninja seat as well, leans you a little bit forward, and this is kind of raised slightly up in the middle, kind of retweaked at the back. At the end of the day, they tweaked it for comfort. I would say, yeah, it's very comfortable. You can see here that a lot of people think that the Z400 or 500 is a more upright bike than the Ninja. It's not so much that it's more upright. You still have a slight forward lean. You're in a sporty position. The wind's going to help hold you up. But you do have a different handlebar system here than you would have in the Ninja. So it's a true handlebar instead of clip-ons. Slight lean forward. You could always tweak that if you wanted it more upright, but to me, it's very comfortable. One of the key differences between the Z400 and the Ninja, or Z500, excuse me, and the Ninja 500 is the mirrors here are on the handlebars. Now, when you lean forward in a full tuck position, on the Ninja, they're still going to be in front of you on the fairing, whereas here they're going to be behind you on the handlebar. It's one of the minor differences between these bikes, but you're basically kind of choosing which one you want. One thing I will say is that they are a fairly wide spread here, so slow speed maneuvers on a Z bike might be a hair easier or a hair more familiar for some people, especially if you're a newer rider, with having a little bit of a wider handlebar. But overall, still a sporty position that's very comfortable. Now the SE model adds a tank protector here, adds some little tank protectors over here. The tank itself is very narrow down here, so you have a very narrow feel to the bike that also puts you lower to the ground. So again, a lot of little things. We're going to show you some of those things as we come through here, but a lot of little tweaks here to make this bike a little bit better than what it was in the past. So before we head to the rear of this bike and look at it from the back end, let's just take a look at all the seats first of all, because there's some differences here. First of all, the SE model, I have a little fluff on there. The SE model here has the option of having this seat replaced with a cowl. I believe that comes with the bike. They have it set up here with the seat, so you can take that second person on there. But one of the things I like about having the seat on there is you can't see, but they're down sort of here. There's a little hook here, and there's a hook down where you put the rear passenger foot peg. Let's just kind of take a look at that. So rear foot peg there. If we put the foot peg down, you have a little hook in there as well. And what that allows you to do is strap on a rear bungee or a rear bag or something like that, in addition to having, you can have various tail bags that sit in the seat that can be removed there. So there's lots of options for luggage here, but I really like that it has a couple little hooks here. They had that on the 400, they kept it on the 500. It just gives you a little bit of practicality, especially since if you're not planning on picking something up, but you can keep a little bungee net underneath the seat, you've got that ability to keep some practicality here. And for somebody who's going to have this maybe as their only bike, maybe as their first bike, that kind of thing, having that practicality matters. There's that redesigned seat there. So again, very subtle differences to the top of the seat. Going to be very hard to show you here, but it has got good padding. It's nice and firm, firm in the good way. You don't want it too soft. You feel like you have some padding underneath you. And then again, the SE model does have these little stickers here, which are going to give you, I wouldn't say a rubbery feel, but almost a little bit of certainly a grippy feel. So again, as you're doing that sport riding, first of all, your tank is protected from any belts or zippers or anything else you have there. And then you've got that grip on the tank there with some protection. So you're not going to be scratching up the bike as you're using your legs to grab and, to ride sporty on this. So a lot of fun and a lot of practicality on this SE model. So taking a look at the tail of this bike, we're going to turn the key to the on position. You can see a really cool new taillight design. Now what's cool about this taillight is, first of all, it looks cool when you see it directly from the back, but we'll show you the side angle again in a second here. It's just got a really cool shape to it overall. So although it looks sort of square and flat from the back, it has some nice sort of 3D capabilities. But there's also something else I like about this SE model here. You have four-way flashers, first of all, but you also have LED signal lights. Now that's important because the SE model has them, the regular model doesn't, but over there, what you see with Justin walking in the background, Justin will help you settle this bike, that's the Z900. The Z900 does not have LED signal lights, but the Z500 SE absolutely does. So kind of great lighting here. This bike really looks modern. And what's cool is the tire size here at a 150 size is only about 1 centimeter smaller than the Z650 and a lot of other bikes that have that 160 size. So although it's a little bit smaller, you don't visually see that, but that little bit smaller tire also gives you that flickability, that ability to go left and right very quickly. And again, you can't replicate that in a bigger bike. You can get faster bikes, but you can't replicate the feeling of a bike like this on those bigger bikes. So again, just a quick shot to show you this taillight from the side here. It doesn't show up on camera as well as it does in person, but you do have appropriate lighting to the side there. But again, just a really cool sort of pointed shape here. If you ever did a fender eliminator on this, you would lose your hook there that you have. But it's just a very cool sporty look on this, whether you do a fender eliminator or not. Again, just nice modern look. They really did a good job of modernizing this bike. Let's take a look at the dash and the controls now. So let's start with the dash here. Now, it's worth noting, first of all, I did a couple things on purpose. You can see I kind of got a half glare in there. I mean, there's still glare off the ceiling, but glare off a white wall there. I want to show you how well these work because filming a TFT display or an LCD display, either one, is very difficult to do to show you the clarity. But you can see here as we zoom in that there's very good clarity here, even though actually I say very good clarity. It's not showing up as nearly as well as I'd like it to on camera, but even though you have that glare there, you can still see everything through here. Now I will say in person this shows up much better than on camera. There are two different displays on the new Z500. So this one is the TFT display on the SE model. There's an LCD display. The TFT display you've seen before. It's in the Z650, Z900. It's in all those kinds of bikes. And it does offer you some connectivity. It offers you a number of different things in here. So you can cycle through some things. First of all, you've got fuel efficiency ratings down here. That's kilometers per liter is what it's set for. You could do miles per gallon UK. You can do liters per 100 kilometers, whatever you want. But you can cycle through them here. So that's up top, you got trip A, trip B, and the odometer. And then down here you have the instant and average fuel efficiency. Again, this bike hasn't gone anywhere, so ignore fuel efficiency numbers. Range, which is distance to empty, calculated based on how you have been riding, but you know, just you can use it as a guide, but not a sort of as a Bible there. Average speed, which is nice to have, and then you also have total time, and then you have your battery in voltage as well, back to your instant fuel efficiency. You always have the clock visible, you always have the fuel gauge visible. One thing worth noting with the fuel gauge here is when it gets down to empty, it's not the last bar that's kind of your last warning. The last bar starts to flash, so you do have a little extra warning. Gear indicator, you have a 6-speed transmission here, and then of course the revs up to 10,500 RPM red line. Very clear speedometer. I like it in this black background with the white lettering, but you can invert that. You can set it for day, night. You can change things. You're going to see the Bluetooth marker lighting down here. Let's talk about that right now. So that Bluetooth icon shows you that it connects to Kawasaki's Rideology app, and a lot of you are going to ask, how does it connect? What does it do? Because there's different levels of connectivity depending on the level of bike within Kawasaki's range. So what I did is I looked it up. I got to use the cheat sheet here. I'm just going to read through basically the basics. So what it can show you is, first of all, vehicle info. Battery voltage can be viewed via the smartphone. So that's what they say for battery voltage. You can just check that through your cell phone. Riding log, GPS route information as well as vehicle running information can be logged and viewed via the smartphone. Telephone notices when a call or mail is received by the smartphone. This is indicated on the current display. So in other words, it shows an icon when you have a call coming through, shows an icon when you have a mail message there. Communication sharing. So rider profile, location, and rider logs can be shared with other Rideology the app users. It's called Rideology the app, allowing riders to interact with other like-minded riders. Again, this Kawasaki's language, not mine. And maintenance log, which I think is kind of helpful. Maintenance history like refueling, lubrication, oil changes, consumable parts replacement, and periodic inspections can be managed. So you can control that and log that through the app as well, which is pretty good connectivity through an app, especially on an entry-level bike. And again, from my understanding, this is the same on the SE model with this TFT display as it is on the regular Z500 with the LCD display. Now, we'll dig into that, but from what I can tell from what Kawasaki's information says, all of that information is available regardless of which Z500 bike you get, which is pretty good. Before we take a look at the controls on the driver's handlebar, we talk about the clutch and a couple other different things, let's just show you the new headlight, because there is a new headlight here. Now, to some of us, it appears to be lower on the body. I'm not sure if that's just visual effects or what's going on there. You do have this tilted or tinted meter cover, they call it. You could call it a windshield. You can see that it's mounted through 4 bolts here, so that is something that the aftermarket, at least, maybe Kawasaki, would allow you to have a little taller windshield out of maybe. The Ninja 500, the SE model, has a taller windshield than the regular Ninja 500 model. So again, we'll talk about that as that bike arrives, but that's going to give you some more touring type performance on that Ninja model right from the factory without having to get any aftermarket stuff. But you do have tinted meter cover and the lights here. Now, if they are lower, this is along with an automotive trend with lights being lower in the car. When they put automotive bright white LED headlights lower in the vehicles, they're often able to have a wider spread because they don't shine into everybody's eyes. They have that nice sharp cutoff, which you would have on a lot of bikes. But what this is going to do is, or a lot of cars, what this is going to do if it is lower, it allows for a wider spread. Now, Kawasaki does advertise a different beam spread, and to me, it does seem like a wider spread. So you're going to get that bright white LED light, which is closer to daylight in color, which allows your eyes to recognize what you're seeing. That's one of the keys to LED lights. It allows your brain to quickly understand what it's seeing. So like I say, you can, like I always say, you can tell the difference between a rock and a raccoon, or a rock and a rabbit, something that's going to run in front of you, and something that's just going to stay put. But again, that wider beam, again, is an upgrade over the 400. And again, LED lights out front. They are mounted up high here, close to the area here. So again, you've got those frame sliders down here. You're not going to lose your signal lights if you drop this bike. You're going to stay within that frame slider, within the handlebar sort of weight bar ends here. And that's going to keep you from having to replace signal lights if you ever drop this bike, which is, again, sort of a smart location. All right, let's talk briefly about the controls here. A couple things I like. You have a flash to pass trigger right there. So if you want to just sort of flash your high beams, get someone's attention at any point, very helpful to have that. High beam and low beam there, signal lights there, horn there, and the hazard lights here. Hazard lights are just super important. I think the four-way flashers, whatever you want to call them, Just gives you a little bit extra option when you pull over or for whatever reason, if you need to get attention, you can do that, especially from behind you there. So all of that's right there. Kind of zoom in a little bit. You can sort of see everything right there. Good quality controls. On the other side, just a kill switch and a start switch. We're going to probably leave it right here. Let's take a look here at the clutch lever though. One thing you're going to find with the clutch lever, it is as light as can be. One thing that's really been cool about the 400 is it had a slipper and assist clutch, and you maintain that slipper and assist clutch. So what does that do for you? Basically, if you're really aggressive on a racetrack or really aggressive on the road and you do an aggressive downshift and you don't rev match properly and you just dump that clutch, without a slipper and assist clutch, your rear wheel can lock and cause you to get a little squirrely, kind of skid. And if you're in a corner or something like that, it can cause you to go down. What the slipper and assist clutch does is it's designed to let the clutch slip instead of the wheel. So what that does is it makes for a much safer, aggressive downshift. They use it in racing especially to have those aggressive downshifts without sort of losing traction. But where it's really beneficial on this bike is it's a great beginner bike feature. If you're not nailing your downshifts perfectly, the clutch can work with you to keep your rear wheel or to help keep your rear wheel from sliding and to allow the clutch to slip as well. The side benefit of that system is it also makes for a very light clutch pull, and on a bike that might be zipping around town a little bit extra or shifting gears a lot because it's not the most big engine and you're shifting up and down through gears. Now I would argue that you don't shift a whole lot more here because, you know, when you're going 100 kilometers an hour on my 900cc bike, it's the same thing here. You're going through all 6 gears. But the point is, it's such a light clutch pull. It's very easy and fun to shift this bike, and that's part of the joy of that. So light clutch pull with a safety system built in there with the slipper assist clutch, great system. So normally I wrap up these reviews by talking about who this bike is for, and we're gonna do that, but I also try to place this bike in the market in the time that I'm filming, which is 2024. So where's this bike in the market? Well, first of all, the 400cc bike still kind of led the class in everything. Now, there were bikes kind of coming up on it, and there were bikes that were competitive with it, but the 400 Ninja was just the bike we recommended to new riders the most. It was the bike that we recommended as a great track bike the most, and this thing steps it up again. Now, the regular Z500 is right priced in line with the Z400. Obviously, if there's still a Z400 around, there'll be some discounts. I think Kawasaki's got $500 or something on that right now, but it's a $300 price increase over the last year's model, which is what they would have done anyways with the 400. So you're right priced in line with the 400 anyways, and you really are getting more. That TFT display, or even the LCD display, the cell phone connectivity, the engine itself, just the extra 51 cc's, you're getting more. Now, in some cases, that may place it a hair ahead or a little higher in an insurance class than some of the other bikes in the class, many of which are even 300 cc's. So you have to keep that in mind, although it's probably not going to be an unaffordable difference between the two. What you do get here, though, is more performance all the way around, and that's a big, big thing. But you're not losing any of what the Ninja 400 or Z400 really brought to the table, which was that really unique riding style, that lightweight, flickable riding style that, again, you talk about people who want to move up to a bigger bike. You move up to a bigger bike, you lose the uniqueness of this bike in that you can't replicate that riding style anywhere else. So that's a key piece. Now, the differences between this and the Ninja 500 are interesting because the Ninja 500 SE, which would be the Ninja version of this, it actually has keyless entry. It's a new Kawasaki, I think it's called KeyPass, K-I Pass, so Kawasaki Intelligent Pass. I'm not even sure what that stands for yet, but that is something different. You also have a taller windshield on the Ninja 500 SE than on the regular Ninja 500, so there's gonna be more separation now between the Z500 and the Ninja 500, and there's gonna be more reason to buy one over the other. The one thing I did not mention on this is it says it has a USB-C port on it somewhere. I haven't found that yet. To be fair, I haven't looked enough. Just do think I should mention that. It is in the specs. I'm not sure if it's under the seat. I thought it would be in the dash, but I just don't see it. On the Eliminator 500, which is an other bike, so in Canada it's called the Eliminator 500, other places it's called Eliminator. It's still the same 451cc engine. That's a cruiser version of this engine. It does have a big USB-C port on the Cafe version, or the SE version as well, on the handlebars. So you do have that, and that gives you options. You've now got this bike here, which is sort of the standard SE version. You can move to the Eliminator, which is the cruiser. You can move to the Ninja, which to me almost goes sport tourer when you get into that SE model, and you've now got options. So placing it in the class right now, within Kawasaki's class, whatever you look at, you've got class-leading power, you've still got class-leading handling for the most part, from what I can see, or very close to that, but you still have the comfort of a bike. So there are better super sport bikes in the class in some ways that are really aggressive riding. This is still a comfortable riding position, but still all the sport that you would need. It's a really compelling bike. It's here for 2024. And again, that is the review of this bike. If you have any questions, make sure you let me know in the comments below. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. We're gonna review other small bikes, not just the Ninja, to compare them to you, to help stuff. We're gonna continue to talk about new bikes, new rider bikes, that kind of thing. And of course, the Ninja's coming, the regular Z500's coming. We're gonna have all of that here on this channel, so make sure you subscribe. And I wanna thank Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, #1 volume Kawasaki dealer in the country, for giving me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup so I can make videos for you guys. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.